Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this regularly scheduled September 26th commission meeting into order. Before I ask for an approval of the agenda, I have I want to add resolution 2022-66 as item 13. That is a resolution declaring a state of emergency. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that states of emergency have more to do with our ability to go back to the governor and get reimbursement from any money that we expend to address hurricanes and storms and those kinds of things. We want to take this storm seriously, but we certainly don't want anybody to panic. So that would be item 13, 2022-66. I also want to announce that a public hearing will be held on October 10th, 2022, not tonight, for the second reading of Ordinance 2022-35/LDR 22-14, which is an application to amend the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations by changing the zoning from residential single-family RSF2 to planned residential development PRD on 6.93 acres, more or less, identified by Alachua County parcel number 01919. Did I say that right? I'm dyslexic, so I have to check. 01919-003-004. We had an issue, I think, that we had originally published it. It was going to be on tonight's agenda. It got pulled off of tonight's agenda by both parties. So it will be on for October 10th. I don't see anybody here in the room tonight for that agenda item, so we did send out emails. So I've added resolution. We made the announcement about that. I have no further amendments or changes to the agenda as it was published. So with that, I have a motion for approval from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Mazon. Questions on the motion on the floor, Commissioner Clark? It's already off the agenda. So it was pulled off the agenda, but it was originally on some previous copy that people got a hold of. So just letting folks know it will be October 10th. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and apologize now. Just on the second reading of the budget, my voice is going, so I'm going to do the best I can to read through this whole script. I made it through class today, and I thought I was going to make it. So I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Mazon. Any more questions or comments on the motion on the floor, which is to approve tonight's agenda with those one announcement and one addition? Any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. I'd like to invite Pastor Ian Campbell from Newberry United Methodist Church to give tonight's invocation. If you would please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will follow directly after. Pastor, welcome.
Got it. There we go. I saw push, so I figured I'd push that. God, who goes by many names, Holy One, love, hope, peace, and goodness, we give you thanks for this day. We give you thanks for your presence with us in this space. And as this meeting opens, we know you to be here with us. We pray for the leaders here tonight, for everyone here, for the many other leaders in different places across this community. We pray for Newberry and the surrounding areas. We pray for all voices and stories in this room. We pray for the work that is done here, that it is for all. We pray for the work to come. Most currently, we pray for this community and all of Florida as we prepare for the coming storm. May the time tonight be reflective of your presence, a time of building hope, community, and most importantly, love. Holy One, we pray that through this work here tonight and beyond, your spirit of belonging, compassion, justice, and healing may be known by all. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. All right. We have no presentations tonight, so that's going to lead us to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth. Second from Commissioner Maison. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to take us to public announcements. Ladies and gentlemen, your commission likes to hear from you early and often, so we set aside this time. If you want to talk to us about something that's not on the agenda tonight, now's a great time to do so. These are the 2-minute announcements. If you have anything a little more controversial and you need a little bit more time, we also set aside public comment at the end of the night. You have 5 minutes to do so. Anybody got anything they want to say? Just come on down. Ladies first.
Good evening to the city commissioner and the members of the dais. I just would like to announce that oh my God, I can't even think of the name of it. No, not my time. Concerned citizens of Newberry will be, sir? Okay. Concerned citizens of Newberry will be having a meeting the first Tuesday in next month, and we will have someone from the city coming so they can explain what's going on with the light bill and everything. Brother Cheeseboro is in getting the person who's going to be coming, and we're inviting all citizens, not just the citizens that live on the north side, but all the citizens of Newberry. So who's ever watching, everyone is invited so you can understand what's going on with the light bills. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Your Honor.
Good evening. I want to thank you all for allowing me to come back and speak yet again. I just want to be very brief. Just wanted to speak to let everyone know that there's a runoff in the November 8th election. In addition to the other elections, there's a runoff for circuit judge. So I'm encouraging everybody to go out and vote on November 8th. And I can just tell you the last thing I just want to end with is every time that we're picking what events to go to, my family gets excited when we're coming to Newberry because we always have a good time. So I appreciate the people of Newberry, and I appreciate you all for letting me speak. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. I've seen your pictures around town. Do you have a website or a Facebook page or anything that people, if they want to ask you questions?
Sure thing. We do. It's called backbrewer.com, BACKBREWER.com.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Any
sir.
particular name on the ballot that you'd recommend?
Sure. November 8th happens to be my birthday, which is election day. So hopefully it's a good birthday. And yeah, I would appreciate a vote for Sean Brewer. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. See you, Sean. Other public comment.
Sorry. Good evening, Commission. Mr. Mayor, thank you for having me. My name is Patrick Sell. Like Mr. Brewer, I'm also a candidate on the November 8th ballot for Soil and Water Conservation District. So these, as you know, these are county-wide seats, so everybody in the county can vote. Just a quick introduction. I come from a family of tree farmers. I'm a husband, a father of 3, and so these issues of soil and water stewardship are near and dear to me. I want to invest in the next generation as well. So again, this is coming November 8th, and this is the Soil and Water Conservation District, and my name is Patrick Sell. So thank you very
I
much.
appreciate you coming down. Did you have a website or anything?
So
I
this is-
heard a
yeah.
cell phone or an email there, but
No,
yeah.
this is a nonpartisan race where I'm not permitted to fundraise. So I'm coming to say hello to friends and neighbors in the county.
All right.
So it's great to be in Newberry. I love it out here and lots of friends here.
Well, thanks for coming.
Thank
We
you, Mr. Mayor.
appreciate it. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Other public comment.
Patrick Sell.
Were you leaving or just adjusting?
All right, hearing no more public announcements, we're going to go ahead and move to public hearings and ordinances. First thing we're going to do is a series of actionable items for a second reading of our budget. And we'll go ahead and convene the Newberry City of Newberry Commission hereby convenes a public hearing on the City of Newberry's fiscal year 2022-2023 final millage and final budget as required by Florida statutes chapter 129 and 200. Chapter 200 requires that a final hearing on the budget be preceded by a 2 to 5 day notice of that hearing. Chapter 129 requires that the commission advertise a summary of the budget. Here are the proofs of a publication that such notices have been given. A summary of the city budget has been provided for public review by means of advertisements in the Alachua County Today on Thursday, September 22nd, 2022, pursuant to these requirements. If anyone in our audience is here for the purpose of contesting their tax assessment, a petition for adjustment with the Value Adjustment Board should have been filed no later than 5 p.m. Monday, September 12th, 2022. The petition forms were available in the property appraiser's office. This evening, we will take a number of actions related to the final adoption of millage and budgets. I encourage you, if you have not already done so, to get a copy of the agenda so that you may more easily follow the proceedings this evening. Citizen comments will be taken following the overview of the proposed budget by the city manager and assistant city manager CFO. The city attorney will now present an overview of the truth in millage legislation, followed by the city manager and assistant city manager's explanations of the final and rolled back millage rates. Mr. Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 1980, the Florida legislature adopted what is known as the Truth in Millage legislation, or TRIM as it's called. The goal of the legislation was to ensure that taxpayers were advised of the public hearings at which local taxing authority budgets and millage rates are considered and adopted. Each year, the property appraiser completes an assessment of the value of all property and certifies to each taxing authority the taxable value of the property within its jurisdiction. Each taxing authority then notifies the property appraiser of its proposed millage rate, its rollback rate, and the date and time and place of the public hearing to consider the proposed millage rate and proposed budget. Once the property appraiser receives the information, he sends a notice by first-class mail to every taxpayer on the assessment roll. The notice contains the information from the taxing authorities as to the proposed millage rate and the time and place of the public hearing. The notice is sent to the taxpayer, and it's called a TRIM notice. The TRIM notice lists what the taxes were for the prior year, what the taxes will be if the proposed budget changes are made, and what the taxes will be if no budget changes are made. This information is listed for each taxing authority. The notice also lists all voted levies for debt service. The purpose of the TRIM notice is to provide taxpayers with sufficient basic information to enable them to participate in the public hearing process.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The presentation of the budget for the Commission's consideration is one of my most important duties as your manager. As mandated by Florida law and the city's charter, I am happy to present you with a balanced budget. This year's budget presents particular challenges. We're operating in a period of financial uncertainty. Inflation is continuing to increase, and natural gas prices are skyrocketing. Inflation is affecting everything we do in government, from energy to construction materials to goods and services. Our costs are rising. Supply chain constraints continue to add pressure to our operations as it becomes increasingly difficult for us to obtain the items that we need. This is particularly difficult for us as our commission is poised to undertake several major capital improvement projects. Additionally, our workers have not been insulated from the Great Resignation. Our workforce has not been insulated from the Great Resignation, and we continue to struggle to attract and keep talented employees. Recent studies reveal that in addition to baby boomers retiring, Americans are leaving work due to low pay, a lack of opportunity for advancement, feeling disrespected in the workplace, and feeling unfulfilled at work. Our team takes these challenges very seriously and are working to create an environment where people can flourish, grow, and serve our residents to the best of their ability. My budget message is simple. Facing these uncertainties, we must exercise fiscal prudence and caution. Therefore, Mr. Mayor, it is my recommendation that with few exceptions, we adopt a continuation budget. The budget I present to you tonight builds upon the foundation this commission has set for sound financial planning and works to balance the cost of providing services to our residents with the economic pressures that we know our community is facing. During this year's budget process, the commission held 4 budget workshops to publicly discuss the budget for fiscal year 2023. The budget was prepared with a focus on the city's future, what we want our community to look like, and how we will get there. This year, we completed a strategic visioning process to align our residents and our commission's long-term goals. City staff used the strategic plan as a roadmap in developing the budget and ensured that we incorporate the goals of the plan into this year's funding plan. The Commission clearly heard our community's desire for a focus on long-term infrastructure, funding expansion and extension of 2 downtown roads to alleviate traffic and provide connectivity, investment in our water and wastewater infrastructure, and an expansion of City Hall to provide our residents a single place to conduct their business with the city. This budget incorporates the goals and objectives set forth in the strategic plan by continuing these important infrastructure projects. In addition to these investments in our future, this commission has prioritized the hard work of our staff who make all these projects happen and who are constantly setting the bar high for local government. The commission has once again shown that they trust and believe in our staff by providing merit increases, continuing to work for to lower the cost of dependent health care, funding a compensation study to ensure that our staff are being compensated fairly and equitably for their work. On top of all that, the Commission continues to bark down a road to implement impact fees. This tool will provide future Commission for decades to come the tools needed to continue to properly plan for the city's growth and our very bright future. The Commission and staff worked hard to reduce the impact on our residents, and I am proud that this budget is funded at a proposed final millage rate of 5.9244 mils. This is a property tax reduction. This is a property tax reduction for our residents. There are no rate increases planned for fire assessment or any other taxes. With the vision of the community and the Commission at the forefront, your staff has spent an enormous amount of time weighing the available funds and the many competing needs for providing services to our community. I want to thank our department heads and the other charter officers for being cognizant of the unique challenges we face and for presenting budgets that reflect the goals of reducing the burden on the city's taxpayers while providing the highest level of service. Dallas Lee, our Assistant City Manager / Chief Financial Officer, will now lead us through a discussion of the millage and the budget.
One of the requirements of the truth in millage legislation is to provide information about why final millage rates are higher or lower than the rolled back millage rate. The final millage rate for the city of Newberry is 5.9244 mils, which is 0.0% more than the rolled back rate of 5.9244 mils. The rolled back millage rate is defined as the millage rate which, exclusive of new construction, additions to structure, deletions, and property added to geographic boundary changes, will provide the same ad valorem tax revenue for each taxing authority as was levied during the prior year. The City of Newberry's proposed final millage rate is the rate at which the City Commission has, through due study and consideration, determined is needed to fund the municipal operations of the City of Newberry in the best interest, public health, and welfare of its citizens. The final millage rate is the same as the rollback rate and the tentatively adopted millage rate. The trim process requires that a tax increase be advertised when the current year proposed aggregate millage rate exceeds the calculated aggregate rolled back millage rate. The aggregate rolled back millage rate is calculated by dividing the prior year estimated property tax revenue by the current year taxable property value divided by 1,000. The current year taxable value does not include new construction or annexed values. For the 2022 tax year, the proposed final millage rate of 5.9244 mils is 0.0% greater than the rolled back millage rate of 5.9244. The primary driver behind the lower rolled back rate is the addition of new homes and businesses on the tax rolls. Mr. Mayor, the 2022-2023 final budget summary for all funds of the City of Newberry summarizes all revenues and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $21,846,430 and reserves brought forward in the amount of $12,099,718. For total revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $33,946,148 and appropriations in the amount of $23,909,127, with reserves appropriated in the amount of $10,037,021 for total appropriations of $33,946,148, which is a net increase from the tentative adopted fiscal year 2022 budget of $815,180. The proposed general fund budget is $12,628,524. There are no changes from the tentatively adopted budget. The proposed capital improvement funds budget is $834,800. There are no changes from the tentatively adopted budget. The proposed special revenue funds budget totals $3,715,838. This is a net change of $738,900 from the tentatively adopted budget. This change is due to carried forward projects from the previous fiscal year. The proposed enterprise funds budgets total $15,557,235. This is a net change of $190,825 from the tentatively adopted budget. This change is due to carry forward projects from the previous fiscal year. The proposed internal service funds budgets total $1,209,751. This is a net change of $155,330 from the tentatively adopted budget. This change is due to carried forward projects from the previous fiscal year. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments on the final budgets presented to you this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the budget at this time.
Okay, Commission, do you have any questions about the proposed millage rates, proposed budget? Okay,
I got a comment, but we wait.
all right. I'd now like to invite citizens to comment on fiscal year 2022-23 proposed final millage rates and proposed final budgets. Please come forward to the podium please come forward to the podium. We do request that each speaker try to limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. The hearing will continue until everyone who wishes to address the commission has had an opportunity to speak. Is anybody here tonight speak to the millage rate of the proposed budget? Okay, seeing none, we'll come back to the commission. I'll close the public comment section of this public hearing. And are we going to read this in? Did we already read it in? 2022?
I believe it's my portion on page 9.
Your portion. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, the document before you included in your agenda packet is the City of Newberry fiscal year 2022-2023 budget summary. It includes all the items that were described earlier. Any additional adjustments to the final budget and final millage rates should be made by motion at this time.
Okay, does the commission wish to make any adjustments to the final budget or millage?
So moved.
Okay. I'm still not clear. Did we read into the resolution? Did you already read that part?
We're not that far
We're not
yet.
there. We're not that far yet.
Next
Okay.
page.
So we don't have any changes, so we don't need a motion. Don't throw me off like that, man. You get me all confused. All right. Mr. CFO.
Florida statutes require that the name of the taxing authority, the millage rate to be levied, the rolled back rate, and the percent increase over the rolled back rate be publicly announced. Accordingly, the City of Newberry City Commission has determined that a proposed final millage rate of 5.9244 mils is necessary to fund the general municipal budget. This is less than the property tax levied in the prior year. The proposed final millage rate represents an increase of 0.0% from the rolled back rate of 5.9244 mils.
Mr. Attorney.
This is resolution determining and adopting the final rate of taxation on real and personal property and making the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the city of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2022-2023 and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to approve resolution 2022-63 as read by title only.
Commissioner Coleman.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman. Do I have a second from Commissioner Clark? Does the commission have any comments or questions on the motion on the floor?
I do.
Okay, Commissioner Coleman.
Great job, Dallas.
Thank you.
Great job, Mike. I mean, Mike being gone with the health concerns and just shows that, he did a great job hiring you and you taking charge of this and, glad you're here, buddy.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Does the public have any comments, questions on the motion on the floor, which is to approve proposed budget with the millage rates? Seeing none, come back to the dais. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Attorney?
Sir, Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the resolution before you is Resolution 2022-64, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the city's budget for the 2022-2023 fiscal year, providing for the final appropriation of funds of the City of Newberry for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022, ending September 30th, 2023, approving a final general city budget, adopting the 5-year capital improvement program for the city, providing authority to the city management, prescribing the terms and conditions and provisions with respect to supplemental appropriations and reappropriations, making a determination of public purpose, providing severability, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to approve Resolution 2022-64 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth. Second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. CFO.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the next 4 items relate to your utilities. The City of Newberry establishes utility rates to generate revenue sufficient to meet its operating expenses. Staff evaluates utility rates annually. I forgot I had a PowerPoint. Let me just quickly catch up here.
I forgot it was working behind me. So there you go.
Staff utilizes models for developing its utility rates to forecast customers' electric and water consumption, wastewater generation, and the anticipated expenses to determine whether rates will produce revenues which are sufficient to meet the expenses associated with providing water, wastewater, and electric utility services to our residents. Many of the city's costs to provide these services are fixed or have increased, such as personnel services, fuel, repairs, etc. At the City Commission's utility budget workshop, city staff presented proposed rate changes, and the City Commission gave consensus to include those rates in the tentative budget. Residential electric rates are proposed to be adjusted by 1.5% for an average residential impact of $1.55 per month. Non-residential rates are proposed to be adjusted in a similar fashion. These rate adjustments are required to maintain the financial position of the utility and support funding of future required infrastructure investments. This adjustment will begin in January of 2023, as estimated natural gas prices are expected to be lower and consumption will be reduced. With these rate adjustments, our electric rates will continue to be competitive within our region and within the state. Customers were properly notified in their August bills, and the city will need to file additional reports with the Public Service Commission to inform them of the proposed rate change.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the item before you is Ordinance 2022-41, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida pertaining to electric utility services within the city to amend and revise Section 98-63, subsections 1, 2, 3, and 8 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry pertaining to the energy charge, providing for codification of same, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to adopt Ordinance 2022-41 upon second reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. CFO?
Wastewater rates are proposed to be adjusted by 2.5% in the consumption charge and in the residential customer charge for an average residential impact of $1.13 per month. This rate increase keeps the city's rates as the lowest residential rates in our area. These rate increases also work towards the Commission's goal of operating self-sustaining utility enterprises. In accordance with the City Commission's policy, this increase is less than the Public Service Commission's published Consumer Price Index for water and wastewater of 4.53%. The primary driver behind these rate increases is additional permit compliance requirements placed on the city by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and inflationary factors. Customers were properly notified in their August bills of the proposed rate changes.
Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance pertaining to wastewater service within the City of Newberry, amending the prior established rates and Section 98-155 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry, amending ordinance number 2021-48, repealing all ordinances in conflict and provide an effective date. Appropriate motion is to adopt ordinance 2022-43 upon its second reading by title only.
Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Assistant City Manager.
Shaking it up.
Yeah.
Water rates are proposed to be adjusted by 4.5% in the consumption charge and in the residential customer charge for an average residential impact of $1.09 per month. This rate increase keeps the city's rates as the lowest residential rates in our area. These rate increases also work towards the Commission's goal of operating self-sustaining utility enterprises. In accordance with the City Commission's policy, this rate increase is commensurate with the Public Service Commission's published Consumer Price Index for water and wastewater of 4.53%. Customers were properly notified in their August bills of the proposed changes.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance pertaining to water service within the city of Newberry, amending prior established rates and amending section 98-154 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, amending ordinance 2021-47, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2022-42 on second reading as read by title only.
Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Assistant City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, development fees are collected to offset the impact development has on the utility infrastructure. These fees are charged against new construction at the time of permit issuance to offset the cost of new infrastructure needs of the utility. These funds are held in trust and are only to be used for expansion and enhancement of the utility systems. Water and wastewater fees are collected by equivalent residential unit, or ERU. The City Commission adopted development fees in 2005 and last increased the fees in 2007. These fees have been critical in funding the utility system. The city's adopted CIP, Capital Improvement Plan, plans for over $20 million in projects in the next several years, which are needed to support development. State law restricts the increase of development fees to 12.5% without a formal study. Staff proposes increasing these rates by 12.5% in the fiscal year 2023 budget and has identified funding in the budget to perform a formal study. Staff proposes increasing water fees from $788 per ERU by $98.50 to a total of $886.50 per ERU, and increasing wastewater development fees from $3,696 by $462 to $4,158 per ERU.
Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Mayor and City Commissions, the item before you is ordinance number 2022-44. This is an ordinance pertaining to utilities within the city of Newberry, amending Division 2 and Division 3 of Article 6, Chapter 98 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry pertaining to water system development charges and sewer system development charges, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date which shall not be until 90 days after passage of this ordinance per section 163.6801, subparagraph 4 of the Florida statutes. The appropriate motion is to adopt ordinance 2022-44 upon second reading as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear that motion? Motion. I have a motion from Commissioner Maison,
Second.
second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Dallas, we appreciate you. This concludes the final public hearing of the City of Newberry's fiscal year 2022 budget and millage rates. Do you have any final comment, Dallas, as we close out another successful budget season?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As the commission knows, this is an interesting budget season. Not everybody carried their weight the same throughout the process, but I appreciate the commission hanging in there with us.
Doesn't weigh much, man. About 25.
A little bit less now. I think the commission adopted a really good budget. It's kudos to the commission that in the financial world we are facing now, you are able to reduce your property taxes on your residents not increase fire assessment, and come in with lower utility rate increases than all of your peers in other cities. So thank you to the City Commission for your leadership in helping us through the budget process. And also thank you to all of our department heads and other city staff who, as always, are super gracious and helpful when working on this process. So thank you.
It's wonderful to hear.
Wonderful. The auditors come in a week, so I'm going to take you up on that.
Mr. Manager, do you have any closing comments as we come to the end of this budgetary season?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do. I'd like to offer thanks to those that deserve it. And I'll start with the mayor and the commission. Our job of laying out operations for the city, building a budget for the city, it starts with kind of a clear roadmap of where we're trying to get. And I think the hardest job in the world is anyone that's not getting clear direction on where they want to go. And it is one of the virtues of this commission, this mayor, this commission. They have an idea where they want to go. They're open to input to help them develop exactly where we're going, but they all walked in, you all walked in with this is where I think we need to go as a community. I'd say that generally you see it the same way. We see a lot of 5-0 votes. We get a lot of consensus building, but I find that you're especially open-minded to the things that we learn as we take this journey together. And I appreciate the direction you provide. I don't think that we could do a good job in operations or build a good budget without it. Like to thank our department heads and their staff. Ultimately, the budget, which Dallas will hold up and say, here's our budget, and it's one sheet. But when we print all those reports out for staff in the next couple of weeks, it'll be a 2-inch thick ring binder with all the backup data in there. And our department heads and our staff do that work. We give them oversight, we give them direction, but at the end of the day, there's not one employee that works for the city of Newberry that is not involved in our budgeting process, giving us feedback, helping us collect data, so that we can develop a strong budget. So I appreciate all of them. A special thank you to Dallas and Jamie, assistant city managers, who stepped in so beautifully when one of us went down and kind of took the easy way out and decided, yeah, I just don't want to do it this year. You know, can you guys handle it without me? And what I found out, unfortunately, is that they can handle it really well without me, and puts a lot of pressure on me to make sure that I'm earning my keep around here. But y'all have done a fantastic job getting the budget here. I know that in early July, we had a meeting to say we're going to develop a great budget. And then the next thing I recall is that we had a great budget developed, and that was in late August sometime. And in the middle,
The blur?
it was a little bit of a blur, but apparently somebody knew what they were doing. So thank you to them, and a final thank you to Dallas and his team. They're the project lead on this. When the rest of us are being lazy and not getting reports in, not getting the things returned that we need to, they're the guys that keep it all moving for us. They go do the research from budget workshop number 1 to budget workshop number 2. They go out and do that research that we've asked for about, well, what about this? What about that? They do a fantastic job. They're on time, they're on point, and I really, really appreciate what you and your team bring to the table. Excited about the upcoming budget. As Dallas said, these are kind of unique and challenging times for city government, and to check all the boxes that this commission has checked in terms of having some infrastructure and some growth opportunities for city government, while at the same time boasting the most competitive utility rates in the region, boasting that we're reducing our tax rates and holding our other fees balanced, I think says an awful lot about this community and this commission. I'm excited about being here and excited about the upcoming budget. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I echo all of that gratitude, and I think it's a job really well done. And I don't think that we can repeat it too much, because as someone who goes around and listens to a lot of other cities who are doing the exact same that we're doing, most cities are going up on the millage rate. They're going up on utilities. They're going, it's up, 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 up. certainly we had to increase some things in our utilities, but we never got anywhere near the index increases that the state was imposing, that other cities were imposing. We went down on the millage. So I know that times are tough, and that's why this body, this dais, is working so hard to try to do what we can in our little sliver of the world to make life a little bit easier. And I know that still, for some folks, that doesn't make it any easier, but I guarantee if you're living in a different city, it's not to throw stones at any other cities around us. Every city is faced with its own challenges, but there is no other city in this county or around us that has managed to do what you guys have done, which is hold things either flat, reduce them, or only incrementally increase. Everyone else is looking at 4 to 8% increases across the board on things. So it's in this year in particular, it has been impressive. So kudos to everybody. And by my count, that takes us to item 9 on tonight's agenda. Did I get that right? Item 9? Yes. Okay. Thank you, madam. This is a legislative hearing, second reading of Ordinance 2022-45. Scott, will you go ahead and read that into the agenda for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance amending Ordinance 2021-36, providing consent for the entire corporate limits of the city of Newberry, Florida, to be included in a non-ad valorem assessment for municipal service benefit unit created by Alachua County for the provision of solid waste management costs, providing conditions for the consent, providing that the consent is for 1 year only, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2022-45 upon its second reading by title only.
Dallas, you got anything else to tell us?
I forgot I had another item, so
Yeah.
you're not done with that. Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, this is the second hearing of the MSBU Municipal Services Benefit Unit imposed by Alachua County. As the commission recalls, the county solid waste department is funded through 2 different sources, tipping and processing fees, as well as this assessment. The assessment funds the 5 rural collection centers, engineering and compliance monitoring, the Office of Waste Alternatives, and the Household Hazardous Waste Program. This year, there is no change in the proposed rates. That is an annual fee imposed on residents' tax bills of $20.47.
Okay, thank you, Dallas. Remember, this is the funding mechanism by which we pay for the landfills. Voting this down would double or triple our waste collection, and it would null and void our contract with Waste Pro, which right now is still the lowest. We'd have to go back to that drawing board because that contract is based on this. So with that, do I have a motion to approve on second reading ordinance 2022-45? Have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor of the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. Roll call. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
No.
Commissioner Maison?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Martin in dissent. And that takes us to item 10. Amending the comprehensive plan, future land use. Mr. Thomas, make your way on up. And Mr. Attorney, would you please read on second reading ordinance 2022-20/CPA 22-01?
Yes, sir. This is an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended relating to the future land use element, specific location sub-element of the city of Newberry comprehensive plan under the expedited amendment procedures established in sections 163.31842 and 3 of the Florida statutes, and in conformance with sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 of the Florida statutes, deleting the specific locations sub-element objective SP.1 and policy SP1.1 of the future land use element pertaining to certain lands within the corporate limits of the city of Newberry, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance 2022-20 as read by title only upon second reading.
And I'm sorry, we're in quasi-judicial at this point. All right, so let me go ahead and, Because we are entering into quasi-judicial procedure, this means the commission will stop being a legislative body and will become a judicial board, which means we have to follow certain rules and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. The primary rule must follow concerning testimony, and the substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the judicial board makes a decision. Standard states the following, and I quote, "All public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record." I'm going to ask the city attorney to read in the record the ordinance, which he just did. So at this point, I'm going to ask the clerk if you will swear in applicant, staff, anybody here to participate in either item 10 quasi-judicial or items 11 quasi-judicial. If you'll please stand now. Our clerk will swear everybody in all at one time. We'll go around and state your name. Madam Clerk.
Okay, we're gonna start with my left and go around the ring and state your name for the record, please.
Brian Thomas.
John Paul Price. First class. Also, Clay Swager.
Sergio Reyes.
Do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can do this.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's go ahead and handle ex parte. Commissioner Maison, you got any ex parte?
I do not.
Commissioner Martin?
No, sir.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
None.
Commissioner Clark?
None.
Commissioner Coleman?
None.
I have none either, but I'm a non-voting mayor. I'm now going to explain the order of presentation we're going to follow for every quasi-judicial item for us tonight. As long as no one new enters the chambers, then I won't go through this procedure again. We're going to start with the staff overview. Then the applicant's going to have the opportunity to make a presentation with no time limit. Then staff is going to give their report and recommendation, also with no time limit. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status. That's going to take us to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item will have 3 minutes to do so. Then the applicant can cross-examine staff and cross-examine members of the decision-making body through the chair, can ask any questions of the applicant or staff. Then we'll hear final arguments from the applicant and staff. City attorney will advise the decision-making body as applicable law and factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. Then we'll deliberate the application. After deliberation, vote will be taken to continue, approve, or deny. That's the presentation order, and we'll begin with the staff overview. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and there is only a staff report on this one. There is no applicant presentation or anything. As stated, this is the second reading of Ordinance 2022-20. This is an ordinance that will eliminate a piece of the specific sub-element of the future land use element of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan. You might remember that the Commission recently on first reading approved the elimination of the entire sub-element for specific location sub-element. This preceded that, and because of timing issues, this piece of the element, we want to go ahead and move it forward because there's an active development already underway that this affects, and the state has another almost 60 days remaining to get back with us on the one that you just passed on first reading. And so we're going to get this one taken care of on second reading, and then the rest of it will all be gone within the next 60 days or so. So basically, like I said, this is to amend the future land use element. You passed it on first reading. Specific objectives that are and policy that are being eliminated. These are specific to the Lexington Station, now known as Avalon Woods, development over by Easton. You can see that it covers the totality, and what the specific location sub-element did was it specified exactly how many units and the intensity and the development could be. This would eliminate that. It's no longer required by the state to be added to your comprehensive plan, and so it's no longer relevant. That shows you what the existing is, and this will basically amend the future land use element and this sub-element by taking these two objectives out, SP1 and policy SP1.1. And so prior actions, March 7th of 22, Planning and Zoning Board voted in favor to the Commission. March 28th, the Commission approved on first reading. So staff's recommendation, prior expedited, did go to state for their expedited review. They didn't have any comments with the exception of the Department of State, which does historical preservation, noted that there are some historic grave sites out there. Those have already been delineated on the developer's site plan to basically segment those off and protect those. They will not be developed over. The graves will not be relocated. They'll be left as they are. And you can see the area in red is the area that we're talking about. And so that's been set aside as common area in this master plan. Staff does find that the elimination of the element is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. And, well, recommendation to enact the ordinance and remove the site-specific sub-element from the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have any public comment? Any members of the public here to speak to this agenda item tonight? Seeing none, I'm going to take us all the way down to members of the decision-making body. Do you have any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Attorney, would you please advise decision-making body applicable law? Oh, hang on one second. We do have one question, Mr. Martin.
Pardon me. With regards to this area, is the developer planning on doing anything to, I'm sorry, yes, what?
Pointing to the cemetery,
Yeah.
people at home can't see.
Okay, sorry, yes. This area, is the developer planning on putting any kind of signage up or demarcation about that, or is it pretty much just gonna be left untouched?
I think, as far as I know, it's going to be left untouched. I have not seen any plans or anything indicating that they would put any signage up. I think they're just going to put fencing around it to protect it, keep people out of it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, Mr. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body?
Substantial and competent evidence for all quasi-judicial proceedings.
Thank you, sir. We'll now enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny. I have a motion for approval from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions, motion, floor to the dais? Does the public have any comments, questions, motion on the floor? Come on down.
Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Gail Watson. My question is, if the developers is not going to put any signage there, can the city put some signage there?
I don't see why. Come on down, JP. I mean, we generally mark, but I don't know that there's a name to that cemetery.
In the response from the Florida Department of Historic Resources, they called it the Davis graveyard, but it is, we believe it's being confused with another graveyard north of us. Right now, the city has been awarded a small matching grant in which we'll be doing a historical resource survey. This is one of the properties that have been identified, and so in updating that survey, there's opportunity for us to ask for additional grant or funding to do identification or something to that effect for this property. And historic grave sites are important to the Department of Historic Resources.
Okay. And I don't know that we need a grandiose sign. We just put up a sign for the cemetery at St. Mark's Baptist Church, right? Just something that lets folks know there's a cemetery here. It's not a very conducive area for kids to get in to play because it's really overgrown, but just as a way to say that's, not appropriate place to go in there, I think that's a reasonable request. We can figure that out without a grant, right? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any more questions? Commissioner Clark?
Being that this is kind of really on the radar now, is there actually markers there? Are they 1800s? Are they?
There's 3 gravestones there.
Okay.
That you can see. 2 of them have almost depressed into the ground where it's difficult to see them.
Yep.
There may be more, which I think is what JP's talking about with the survey to find out if there's other markers that have, sunk into the ground.
Okay.
But you can read 3. Okay, any other questions from the dais, questions from the public? Okay, I have a motion properly seconded on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We're still in quasi-judicial, so I'm not gonna read that presentation over again. Staff, is this JP? Are you gonna come down and give us the overview I'm sorry, we will do the ordinance 2022, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir. This is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended, relating to an amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan under the expedited amendment procedures. established in sections 163.31842 and 3 of the Florida statutes and in conformance with sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 of the Florida statutes, providing for a change in future land use classification from rural agricultural to mining on certain lands within the corporate limits of the city of Newberry, Florida, tax parcel numbers 01855-000-000, 01855-002-000, 01856-000-000, and lastly, 01862-000-000, consisting of approximately 124 acres of land, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion at the appropriate time is to pass ordinance number 2022-39 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Sir. JP, want to give us the staff overview?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners. John Paul Perez with the Planning and Economic Development Department. The request before you tonight is to change the future land use of a property from county agriculture to city mining. Here's an aerial of the city where you can see the general location of the property along County Road 235. Here is the current future land use of the property and the surrounding properties. As you see, it's right next to Argos, their mining property, as well as their cement factory, which is a material-oriented industrial future land use. The proposal is to change the county agriculture to city mining. Here's an aerial of the subject property where you can see part of the property is actively being mined. This is part of a separate Florida Department of Environmental Protection application for mining. The remainder of the site is a former mining site. There are 3 residences on the property that are currently occupied, but those will be vacated, and the plan is to mine the entirety of the site. Adjacent to it is a zipline park, and below they're another active mining from limestone products as well. And so in the future land use map amendment process, there will be the one planning and zoning board hearing, which has already occurred. There will be 2 city commission meetings in between those. We'll have a transmittal to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. Their review lasts about 45 to 60 days. Then we'll bring it back for a second reading. As Brian mentioned with the previous item, we need to get that one in. That's currently being reviewed. Once that's been reviewed and approved, then we can go ahead and get stuff adopted or approved by the state again. So we'll have this one coming forward in the future for a second reading, should it pass tonight. A companion item to this is the change of zoning. Since this was recently annexed into the city, they also need to change the county zoning for the property, so that'll be going from county agriculture to city agricultural. Just a standard transition from one to the next, like for like change there. Similar process, one planning and zoning board meeting, which has already occurred. We're here tonight with first reading. Once we have approval from the state to move forward with the land use, should it pass tonight, we'll bring both of these back together. In addition, to do mining in the city of Newberry, you have to ask the city commission for a special use permit. So you will see this similar request again. Scheduled for October 3rd is the special use permit hearing for that mining use. So that will be coming to commission again. That only needs one public hearing with city commission, but we're going to hold off on that until we have the land use and the zoning in place. So you guys have the authority to approve that special use permit for expanding their current mining operation onto the former mining site. Staff finds the proposed future land use map amendment consistent with the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations and Comprehensive Plan. And at the pleasure of the board, you may approve with conditions or deny the ordinance. That is Ordinance 2022-39. We do need authorization as well as a second motion to authorize the Land Development Regulation Administrator to transmit this petition to the state. So there will be two motions tonight. One to approve on first reading, second to authorize the LDR administrator to transmit this petition to the state. Any questions
Okay.
for staff?
I heard staff's recommendation, so I take it the applicant doesn't have a presentation?
They do. They
Okay.
do.
All right, well,
What?
we'll hear from the applicant next then.
Got a brief presentation, if I may.
Please.
Well, thank you. And I will be
Only
brief.
one TV, only one TV.
One
there,
TV,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, is mine just after? Oh, great, okay. Good evening,
Jam
everyone. I'm Clay Swager with EDA Consultants representing the property owners, Cates and Broom. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the request, just to add to what staff indicated. There's two requests before you tonight, a land use map change and a rezoning on approximately 124 acres in the city. This map shows the city limits of the city of Newberry in dark gray, and these properties are in the city. They were recently annexed into the city of Newberry along with some other properties to the east, and as such, they still have county designations for land use and zoning, so we would respectfully ask for city land use and zoning designations for the property. This just gives you a higher level overview of where the property is. You can see there's quite a bit of mining activity in that area, along with some other recreation type activities like the Gatorback Park and hopefully the upcoming Zipline Park, which is our neighbor just to the east. This map shows you the 5 parcels that encompass about 124 acres just due east of the Argos plant and County Road 235. This map I put together to help you see what is an existing FDEP permitted mining operation. Everything in yellow is permitted, which includes about a third of the property before you tonight. So there's already existing FDEP state permitted mining on the property. And there's a long history of mining in this area. I just put these aerial photos in here for your reference, almost 100 years. It's hard to tell because there aren't parcel lines, but that area is the subject property that shows mining back into the 1930s. And this property is actively mined, as I mentioned, on a portion, and the other portion was previously mined. And so this exhibit shows you what's happening on this property and then the surrounding areas. On every side, there's either existing or previous mining operations. There aren't any residential properties in this area. There are a couple properties, there are 3 residences on the property, but they would be removed at such time as mining were to take place on the property. But there really aren't any residential neighbors in the area, which I thought was important to note. This very predominant land use pattern. And so the current land use map is shown here. The light green is rural agriculture county. You can see there's several hundred acres in the city of Newberry to the west that already have mining land use. Essentially, any mining operation in the city limits has a mining map designation. The county doesn't have one, so it's just shown as ag. So all the mining to the south and the southeast is still rural agriculture in the county. And so the request would be to put this property into mining land use designation. And so the zoning would go from county ag to city ag. Just a few notes and comments. Again, we're following up from an annexation into the city requesting these designations. And as your staff indicated, we're consistent with the comprehensive plan. I think we're very consistent with the land use pattern in the area, both the existing mining operations, past mining operations, the lack of residential properties in the area. There should be no negative impacts to the city public facilities. Also, traffic should be minimal. Because this would be essentially an expansion over time of mining operations, they really only operate in one area. So when they complete an area and reclaim it, they move on to another area. So this would not be twice as many trucks. It would be just the same operation moving into this area if you were to approve. I have P&Z will remain involved. That also should say the city commission. I failed to update my slide, but you all will see a special use permit master plan, which would show sort of the parameters of mining in compliance with all the DEP regulations, including setbacks and buffers. So that should be before you probably in the next month or two. We're trying to work as a good neighbor. We're working with Mr. Spain, who's proposing the zip line facility, to make sure he's got proper access through the property, so everybody's working well together. Both are supportive of the use, and so I guess with that, the Planning Zoning Board heard this item and recommended approval, and with that, I've got a couple other folks here with me tonight, and if I can't answer any questions, they can hopefully, and I appreciate your consideration on this tonight.
Thank you, sir. We
Thank
appreciate it. So that's going to take us, JP, since I heard the recommendation, I'm assuming you went ahead and you gave your report, or do you have anything else to say?
No.
Okay, that'll take us to public comment. Any members of the public here to speak to this agenda item tonight? Okay, seeing none. JP, did you hear anything that you'd like to cross-examine?
No, I went.
Did you hear anything that you'd like to cross-examine? All right, members of the decision-making body, do you have any questions? Commissioner Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, the only question I have is, so I'm assuming that these three residents are renters and they know that they can be.
Who wants to answer that? Pick whoever's best placed.
Thank you. I'm Paul Stokey. I'm the CFO for Limestone Products in Cates and Broome. Yes, we have, actually one house is vacant now. Two of them are renters, and they're under short-term contracts with the understanding that at some point we will give it, and we'll give them plenty of notification. We're working with them.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
I was just kind of curious as how long it would take to totally mine that area. And
Who's best to answer that?
What kind of reclamation process they go through?
That's a difficult question to answer. It would, based on past history, it's probably a 15 to 20-year plan. Just it depends on need in the community. So as the northern Florida area grows faster and faster, there's more need for that rock, which is used in road base, and some of the utilities use it in their scrubbers for their coal-fired plants. But so I would think in 15 to 20 years it would be completely consumed, but it's hard to tell. And the other part, there was
what kind of reclamation process do you have to go
Yes, we
through?
follow the state, and there's a full reclamation plan, which you could probably speak to better, but we're required to, in a nutshell, create shear walls, have setbacks, berms around them. If there is land, revegetate. In this case, it'll probably end up being predominantly water and vegetation on part of it.
Commissioner Maison?
Yeah, Coleman actually asked my first question. My second one was, you said Spain he supports this? He's cool with it?
Yes,
with the zip line?
he actually offered to be here tonight, but he made a short presentation to the zoning committee on our behalf, and we're working with him to give him access to his. He's got to come across a piece of ours, so we have an agreement on a section of land that allow him access to his property. And long term, we will work with him. We're going to try to mine this in such a format that he could expand his zip line in the future. So.
And I can confirm that Mr. Spain showed up at the P&Z and spoke very much enthusiastically in support. Any other questions? Commissioner Martin.
I don't know the engineering or the tolerances for those bases where those zip lines are mounted into the ground, but I don't know if there needs to be consideration when you're mining in there, how much it shakes the ground, or if you guys even use blasting or any of that stuff, how it may affect the stability of those anchor points. And it's just a comment. It's not.
Okay. Mr. Spain's checked into that. That's all I can tell you is he is has checked into that.
Hang on one second. Could you come back up to the microphone, because we're still in quasi-judicial, and questions about whether or not the zip line would, and that would be Mr. Spain. He's got the engineers.
Right, and Mr.
He's
Spain
checked in on that.
has had engineering, and as a matter of fact, he had wanted to have the zip line come across while we were blasting. Of course, we can't do that in the future. I guess we could on the inaugural day when the mayor goes across. But His presentation, the footers on those things were pretty amazing, so I think they've taken that all into consideration, knowing they'll be blasting.
And we did, it's been a while now, but when he first presented, the question was asked, there's active mining around there. He addressed it. He said he had been speaking with engineers. They had taken that into consideration. Any other questions from the dais? Okay, that's going to take us to, we've already got our final arguments. Would you like to make a final argument? Staff, would you like to make a final argument? We've already been advised decision-making by applicable law, so we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion to approve or deny. I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Maison, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments, questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Any comments, questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We're still in quasi-judicial. Mr. Attorney, would you please, on first reading, read Ordinance 2022-40/LDR 22-15 into, hang on one second. Madam Clerk?
I understood there was supposed to be two motions.
Oh, that's right. JP, there was two motions. What was the second motion?
Authorize the LDR administrator.
That's it.
Okay. And who is the LDR administrator? Come on down, JP. That's going to be Brian? Okay, so I need a motion to authorize the LDR administrator to be Mr. Thomas.
To transmit the petition to the state.
All right. I have a motion from Commissioner Maison, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions on that motion on the floor from the dais? Any public questions or comments on that motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now, Scott, would you read on first reading Ordinance 2022-40?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the rezoning of approximately 124 contiguous acres, more or less, pursuant to an application done by the property owner of said acreage, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from County Agricultural Zoning District to City Agricultural A Zoning District on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. These are tax parcel numbers 01855-000-000, tax parcel number 01855-001-000, 01855-002-000, 01856-000-000, and finally 01862-000-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2022-40 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, Scott.
Sure.
Okay, so we've already sworn in. JP, you want to give us the overview?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. This is the companion item to the one previously heard. This is the rezoning for the 124 acres for the Limestone Products property. Again, this property was recently annexed into the city and so still has a county zoning. They're simply asking for a city zoning, like for like. They're going from agriculture to agricultural. Here's the current zoning where you can see it adjacent to other properties that are all agricultural. They are proposing agricultural in the agricultural zoning district that allows for mining as long as the land use and the special use permit are in place. Within the report that was provided by the applicant for the proposed future land use, rezoning, and special use permit, there was mention of gopher tortoise habitat being on the property. They are a listed species. Because they are a listed species, they do enjoy some form of protection. There are additional surveys that are done for the property prior to the state issuing a permit for the mining. So they will, from what I understand from the agent, possibly doing an additional survey to understand the total extent of the gopher tortoise burrows that exist on the property. As such, we are requiring or putting a condition that the tortoises be relocated prior to the commencement of any mining activity. based on that, we find the request consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land development regulations. We have incorporated that condition into the draft ordinance already, should it be passed on first reading. And at the pleasure of the board, you may approve with conditions, or deny the ordinance. Any questions for staff at this time?
Okay, thank you, JP.
Thank you, sir.
Heard the recommendation, so I'm assuming the applicant, you have another presentation you want to make for this one, or you
No,
rest
sir.
on what you
Yep.
said previously?
The same presentation would apply. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
All right, thank you. Again, I've not been contacted by anybody who wishes to claim a third-party intervener status on this. I'll move us to public comment. Does any members of the public wish to speak to this agenda item? Hearing none, and we will move to, did you hear anything, applicant, would you like to cross-examine? Did you hear anything you'd like to cross-examine? All right, member decision-making body, do you have any questions? Commissioner Coleman.
So what we're doing here is we're gonna make these folks move these gophers?
I think that's the state of Florida making it.
And I mean, they have to do it. Well, when y'all do that, can y'all send them over to my place to come get them all?
Yeah. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, that's gonna take us down to, would you like to make a final argument? No? No? Okay, we've already been decided decision-making body is applicable law. I'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion.
Motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Mazon, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Yeah, that's gonna take us out of quasi judicial and to our new item 13, which is state of emergency. Mike, are you gonna take us through that?
I will tell y'all, Jimbo Nipper died, so if not, you'd have took all the gophers from him.
And honestly, I'll come get the Uber ham if you want me to. I bet you never heard that.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This last item on tonight's agenda was added just prior to the city commission meeting. It's resolution number 2022-69. It pertains to a declaration, a proposal to declare a local state of emergency for the city of Newberry, Florida, related to impending Hurricane Ian. Is it appropriate that the city attorney read the resolution?
I was going to have him do that as soon as you were done presenting it. Is that you
Okay, I
finished?
just want to
Are
make
you
sure.
done with your presentation?
I'm talking about there, no, Mr. Mayor, there is no presentation. I'll generally say that this waives certain requirements that we typically have in place, and it allows us to get a short list, enter certain contracts, incur obligations, employ permanent temporary workers, utilization of volunteer workers, rental of equipment, acquisition and distribution of supplies, materials, either with or without compensation. I'm really interested in seeing how we might pull that one off. Supplies, materials, and facilities, and the appropriation of expenditure of public funds. So it just allows us to operate a little more nimbly if we get into an emergency situation and we need to procure materials or hire contractors. We can waive some of our existing requirements for doing that, like competitive bidding, so that we can do things more quickly. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. Staff recommends that we adopt Resolution 2022-69.
Does anybody have any questions for staff, or ask Scott to read it into the record? No questions? Mr. Attorney, would you please read that into the record for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, declaring a local state of emergency for the City of Newberry pursuant to Section 252.38, subparagraph 2 of the Florida statutes due to the threat of Hurricane Ian, providing for waiver of certain procedures and formalities, delegating authority, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2022-69 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments, questions, motion floor from the dais? Public comments, questions, motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. That takes us to comment. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as the commission just recognized, we are preparing for Hurricane Ian. Staff spent all of the day and some portion of the weekend trying to prepare our community, doing things like making sure all the debris that is roadside or might be a public health concern have been removed, notifying contractors that would help us in an emergency event, preparing our staff, procuring materials that we currently don't have, and I think we spend a lot of time calling contractors and saying, we know that if we have a hurricane, that you're just going to be out of work for a couple days because you can't work with no power and when it's flooded. But we need your staff and the equipment that you have. Would you report and help us clear vegetation? So we collect all the emergency numbers that we can so that we can be more responsive. The other thing that we're aware of is when you are ranked 200th out of 400 cities, your clout with the ability to pull resources is very limited at a large scale. So we have learned to become very reliant on local contractors, and we cultivate those relationships. But our staff went home today well prepared, and we'll continue preparation tomorrow, which is Tuesday. We anticipate that Easton will be opened as a shelter. That announcement, if it's going to happen, would come through tomorrow. I understand that it likely would be a pet shelter as well as for general population available to our residents for use. We are closing city operations on Thursday with the certainty that we're going to have certain impacts on Thursday. We'll probably close City Hall a little bit early tomorrow afternoon, get our staff home during daylight hours to make sure they can put finishing touches on anything that they need to at the house. Our staff are going home prior to the storm with an understanding that is, if we receive negative impacts from the storm, that they would be expected to report for work at first daylight so that we can begin restoration processes. So lots going on with storm prep for Hurricane Ian, Mr. Mayor.
Mike, before you leave the hurricane, will you speak a little bit towards sandbags, how long that'll be available, garbage pickup?
Absolutely. Garbage collection is whatever the normal collection is on Tuesday and Wednesday will occur. Thursday's regularly scheduled collection has been suspended. We're asking residents not to put garbage out curbside on Thursday. Expected to be very windy all day Thursday. We don't want those receptacles out there. We do have a couple of loads of sand and sandbags at the Public Works compound. It's a self-serve situation. And if you're incapable, let us know. We certainly could find someone that'd be happy to fill some sandbags.
There's sand in bags. The self-serve part is you bring your own shovel and maybe somebody to hold the bag open while you shovel it in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it happens every time. Bags walk away. We ask because we're limited on resource. Get what you need. Get everything that you need, but don't take home 2 extra bags for future use, or in some cases a couple hundred extra bags. But we'll monitor that. We delivered 2 loads of sand, which typically would get us through a process like this. But if we see by tomorrow midday that we're running low, we'll get another one that's all locally delivered. Mr. Mayor.
Dallas has
Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, I just want to encourage our residents and employees. On our city's website at newberryfl.gov, there's a big red banner at the top that says Hurricane Ian. If you click on that, it'll take you to all the resources and information the city has. It is being updated as quickly as we get information. So it's got information about the current status of the storm, office closure, shelter openings, links to readiness websites, information about sandbags. It's a one-stop shop. So if residents have any questions about what's going on with the city, I would encourage them to, once again, go to the city's website and click on that banner at the top that says Hurricane Ian.
Mike, I know we're trying to assist in picking up yard debris. how long we'll be able to do our other preparations and assist in that yard repair. Is there a deadline that people need to get dead limbs and stuff cut up and out for us to get it picked up before the hurricane? Have we passed that deadline?
Mr. Mayor, we're going to continue that work through Wednesday noon. We can't reach every property, between 11 o'clock Wednesday and noon, but, we've started today already. So the sooner, the better. I don't know that we'd have time to get back to any one property now, but our thought is we're going to make a sweep of the entire city, get as much picked up. What we don't pick up, we encourage you to save up, put somewhere where the wind it'd be protected from winds, so that things stockpiled in your front yard or in the right of way then become dangerous to you or your neighbors. Are there any questions about our storm prep?
I have one more. Dallas, residents who've downloaded the app, are we going to be utilizing the app for any notification? What's the best way for residents to get notifications or to let us know about things while the storm's going on? Is the app taking over that role, or is it still the 24/7 hotline?
The hotline is always a great option. You can submit requests on the app. However, the app is not monitored in real time. We strongly suggest that you do not put in power outages on the app, although this storm event will be a great system test of our new AMI system to track outages. So putting in requests through the app is a great resource. In terms of pushing data to customers, once again, we would recommend the city's website, following us on Facebook, as well as if you go to our city's website, underneath the How Do I tab, there's How Do I sign up for emergency notifications. If you sign yourself up for that, the city can push you emergency notifications as well. The county's also recommending that if you want county-wide notifications and weather notifications, you text Alachua to 888-777. And again, all that information is on our website.
Good memory. 888-777. I got it now, but I'm gonna forget it in 30 minutes.
I'll give you all assurances that they are very good at pushing information out if you do sign up for that service. So make sure you have plenty of battery life when you sign up for that service.
And then lastly, Mike, remind us, what does the wind have to come down to before we send our crews out to? Because it's not just that the hurricane has passed. There's gusts, there's other things that have to finish up before we'll send our guys out.
Mr. Mayor, we don't send crews into the field to work with wind speed, sustained wind speed at 35 miles an hour or in excess. And if you guys have sat through any of these storms with us, you know that this stuff comes in bands. We don't send our crews into the field between bands. I'm not saying that doesn't occasionally get away from us, but we direct our staff to 35 miles an hour. It's got to be reduced, and that's after the bands have passed through, and then we're not going to get any more winds in excess of 35 miles an hour. It's really dangerous. If you go 45 feet in the air in a bucket truck and you get a wind gust in excess of 35 miles per hour, it's very dangerous. So we're trying to keep it as safe as we can for our personnel.
And Mike, I lied. One more. We now have interlocal agreements with who? Duke, Central Florida,
With
and Clay.
co-ops.
With all the co-ops.
With all the
so they can
co-ops.
come in and assist us. We can go and assist them.
That is correct, but what we can't do with the co-ops is say we want to work in Newberry. We can say it, but there's no guarantees. Typically, they do just like we do. They send us to where the area of greatest need is, and if that is in a different county, that's
But
where
we determine that we're done fixing our infrastructure first, and then we can say, all right, we're done with us, we're available. We
available to
notice
help
that we still have this section that's within our current city limits that's out. We could get there really quickly, right? That's
we
the
could say that. I've never had any success in achieving that,
Yeah.
but I've been quick to say it
Well,
all.
maybe our guys should just, no. I saw somebody was gonna have a question over here about the storm prep.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you actually asked it because we went through this with the mutual agreement, so kind of answers what Mike said with Clay Electric. Even though our city is our city, they still have sources here, but it looks like we don't get no love on it from Clay.
I think,
But
I think if
I know
it
you'll
plays
try.
145,000
They're
customers,
huge. They're huge.
and they're doing just like us. They're just scrambling. And
They
I
are.
think if they had time to slow down and think about it, they would accommodate us. But I suspect that their service territory covers about 85 cities, and they just can't accommodate every one of those.
I'll have one thing on the storm, and as the thing, people with generators at home, please be safe when you use your generator at home. Kill your main breaker before you kill a lineman. So just because you have a generator online and you got power, does not mean that it's safe for everybody else outside.
Words of
So
wisdom.
please
I
be
see some
safe.
confused looks. What happens is if the power's out, I turn my generator on. That generator is providing, and I'm going to say this wrong, but it's providing power to my house, but it's also sending power some distance down the
backfeeds.
line. Backfeed is so our guys start to slowly and systematically fix it. Well, somebody has a generator on, and that line that's supposed to be dead is actually backfeeding from your house through your generator back down the line. So
Kill
those are
the main
kinds of
breaker
things.
if you're gonna run a generator.
Right. So in your house, just turn off the main breaker, and that way that'll prevent that from happening.
How many?
Other questions about storm
All of
prep?
our electric meters are no.
Yeah.
How many are we showing?
All right. Excellent comments. Mr. Manager, was that concluded? or you
Mr.
got
Mayor,
more?
just one more announcement, unrelated to the storm. I had mentioned to you a month ago that we had implemented a utility disconnect waiver policy because of the cost of energy. And there are certain parameters, but because energy consumption has continued to be high this month, we're going to extend that program for another 30 days.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. We appreciate that. Hey, you got applause too, right? Wonderful. No, don't be ashamed of that, right? When you hear something, you clap loud. Does that include your comments, Mr. Manager?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Attorney, do you have any comments?
Mr. Mayor, we had good news last week. Danielle Adams passed her bar exam and was sworn in on Thursday by Judge Monica Bracington. So she is a full-fledged member of the bar, and when you talk to her, tell her congratulations. We're very proud of you.
Absolutely.
Sir.
All right. Wonderful. Madam Clerk, do you have any comments? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Coleman?
Got two things. Number one, who's gonna check on Miss Peggy on Friday?
You.
I'm trying to get to Jacksonville for flight on Saturday morning.
Whew.
Lord.
I like it. Ambitious.
Okay, that's number one. So nobody's gotta check on Miss Peggy. Number two, Mark Clark, who are you calling Friday morning?
I will not be calling anyone. If someone calls me, I'll be standing by with my tractor, Mr. Cole.
Oh, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you. That's all I got.
Now, there is sort of an informal competition that Commissioner Mazon may not be aware of. Commissioner Mark may not either. You know, as soon as it's safe to do so, you know, the elected officials, we load up the chainsaws, we head out. You can see Monty just zipping away on it. The sawdust is flying everywhere, clearing them roads out. I think I cleared about 4 or 5 streets last time myself.
And just.
Right, I am unfamiliar with Monty using.
And for the rest of the community's knowledge, that is the most fearful moment that operations staff had, is when we see that team of elected officials out front.
Yeah, we wear orange vests and the whole king and caboodle. Commissioner Clark, you got anything?
I just say there's a lot of moving parts, and please don't take this thing lightly, and be safe. And if anyone needs me, I know they think elected officials probably can't, but I own many chainsaws, and be ready to go. All my stuff's getting ready, and I'll take care of my little area if need be to help clear. But just be careful of power lines. That's really a real big deal when people doesn't understand how these things backfeed or anything. So, other than that, you know, God bless America, and we hope this thing, just give us some grace.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Farnsworth, you got anything?
We have, located here in Newberry, the Ashton Biological Preserve. And they do the study of gopher tortoises. So I don't know whether anyone was aware of that or not, but
I did not. Have you gone out there and visited them?
I have not.
He's saying take those and.
All right, put them
I have
on
not.
reserve.
But,
Hams, straight on with
but I thought it was kind of interesting, and
Yeah.
the gentleman and his wife who started the preserve have written books regarding the gopher tortoises and are quite famous, except he passed, I think, several years ago he passed, but his wife is still keeping the project alive, so that's all.
Well, thank you, sir. Commissioner Martin?
You know, part of our MO has become being good in challenging situations. Going back to the budget earlier, how we are able to be as flexible as possible, how kind of one man down, one man steps up kind of thing. It's sort of in our DNA, or it's become our DNA, to really be able to shine in times of challenge. Hurricanes are no example. We always show up. People help each other, their neighbors. We help out our out-of-town guests over at Easton has been a little bit of our MO. I love that part of Newberry. That's why I always use the adjective that we're a character community. So I just appreciate that. This is another opportunity to show what we're all about come the next couple of days, and look forward to it.
Well said. Commissioner Maison?
Yeah. I think it's Linda Wilcox's birthday, correct? Happy birthday to her. 80 years old? Bless her soul. I agree with Martin. Agree with all you guys, especially you. God bless America, and everybody stay in through the storm. That's all I have. But I know I'm going to end the night with a joke. I know you guys are waiting on it. Huh? We got a whole nother meeting?
We got a CRA meeting after this.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is the meeting though, right?
Yeah, this is the meeting.
All right.
So,
So,
BOA, I'm sorry.
this
BOA.
would be, so that's, yeah, this is the meeting.
You already
Right?
did the CRA.
Well, I'll have
Get all
another.
the meetings mixed up in my head now.
Okay. So why don't they use holy water and vaccinations?
Vaccinations?
Yep, and vaccinations, and and
Holy water and vaccinations.
Yeah.
Why?
can't use the Lord's name in vain.
In vain. I
Yeah.
get it. I'm gonna steal that one too.
I knew that.
I have one that's not on the hurricane. I would like the commission's blessing to go back to our quasi judicial proceedings one more time, make a couple of suggestions, bring that to you guys. I'll give it to Scott first, have him look over it. But we still seem, and it's kind of a work in progress, right? There still seems to me to be some redundancies there, some things that we could streamline, make it a little bit more efficient, and make sure that the commission is adhering to what you're supposed to adhere to in a quasi judicial, which is substantial evidence, right? Expert testimony, those kinds of things. So if the commission is willing to let me wordsmith that a little bit, again, I'll send it to Scott before we bring it, but I'd like to get it on the agenda, and let's see if we can update one more iteration of this. So if I get a bunch of head nods, that's fine. I agree with everything's been said about hurricane prep. I have no doubt that we'll shine. The latest track has pushed it a little bit more east. Now, that was 2 hours ago, and about every 2 hours it changes. So, but the latest was not to our benefit. It was coming a little bit closer to us. So take it seriously, but I would echo, same thing with sandbags when it comes to gasoline, food. Get what you and your family need, but there's no reason to get any more than that. Be respectful at the gas stations and all of those kinds of things. Check on your neighbors, the things that we always do. We'll communicate as much as we can, as much as our battery powers allow us to. I know that the commissions will be updating their Facebook pages. The city will be updating Facebook pages, and those kinds of things. So work together, and we'll get through it like we always do. That's concludes my comment. We'll open it up to citizen comment.
It's already on. Thank you, Mr. Coleman, for the concern.
No problem.
And I just want to do some kudos for our staff, especially the people who fix things after the mess. Because last hurricane we had here, 45 minutes, I was without power.
Thank you. I won't tell you how long I was out. Central Florida Electric was 3 days. So City of Newberry was 45 minutes and 3 days. 5 days for Clay? Yeah. So, yep. Any other citizen comment? Hearing none, we are adjourned.